Scuderia Ferrari is one of F1's most successful teams, and rightfully so considering that it's also the oldest team in the sport. Right from the days of Ascari and Fangio all the way up to their present line of Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, they've always been at the forefront of F1. Ferrari's form has slipped considerably in recent years, though in its long history it has had many such instances of struggling to maintain pace. Despite all this, the team has won plenty of championships with F1 greats like Niki Lauda, John Surtees, Jody Scheckter and of course Michael Schumacher, which is why every young driver dreams of driving and winning for the team in red at some point in their careers. But what about the reigning world champion Lewis Hamilton? Why has Hamilton never had the chance to drive for Ferrari? And could Hamilton bring Ferrari back to its former glory? To answer that, let's take a deeper look at what Hamilton had to say about his dream of joining Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton started out his F1 career with the Mclaren team back in 2007. His partner at the time would be two-time defending champion Fernando Alonso coming in from Renault. McLaren had their sights on a young Hamilton since 1998, years before he could even join the grid. His success in Formula Renault, Formula 3 and the GP2 series would soon pave the way for the young Briton to drive in Formula 1. Despite the pressures of being teamed up with a championship winner, Hamilton went on to have an excellent first season, losing out the title by 1 point to Ferrari's Kimi Raikkonen and tying scores with Alonso. However, the relationship between the McLaren drivers turned sour due to multiple incidents that generated lots of friction between the two teammates. All of this then gave rise to rumours that either of the two drivers might consider leaving the team due to their differences. Reports suggesting Lewis Hamilton was being sought by Luca di Montezemolo for a Ferrari seat that could have earned him a potential £20 million a year started to do the rounds. But Hamilton decided to stick with McLaren. The ties between Ferrari and McLaren had also turned frosty, particularly because of the events of Spygate, where a Ferrari employee by the name of Nigel Stepney was accused of handing over sensitive technical information to a senior engineer at McLaren. The ensuing scandal involved not just the team management but also the McLaren drivers, who were asked to testify in front of the FIA about their role in the scandal. The whole affair, as well as the rivalry with Hamilton, would see Fernando Alonso leave the team for Renault after just one season. Hamilton, on the other hand, would have a spectacular season the following year. Going into the final race of the season, he had a 7-point lead over Ferrari's Felipe Massa. Despite winning the final race, Massa would lose out to Hamilton by a single point in a repeat of events similar to the 2007 season ending. Now, having been crowned world champion, Hamilton started to garner significant attention from the rest of the teams on the grid. Any approach is flattering, but I haven't had one. I love this team and I've got a contract that still goes for many years, and I hope I get the opportunity to sign for McLaren again. This is my family, I've said many times before. I want to spend the rest of my career here and that still stands, was Hamilton's response on being asked about any possible moves. It was unlikely that Hamilton would join another team, having already signed a 5-year deal with McLaren. Had Hamilton joined Ferrari then, he might have ended up partnering Massa, who was not very keen on the idea, saying, "I drove alongside Michael Schumacher and I drove alongside Kimi Raikkonen. For many years I've thought Fernando Alonso would come. Lewis is just another one, so I don't care. Valentino Rossi was rumoured. Maybe my father will drive for Ferrari next year." McLaren continued racing with Hamilton in the driver's seat, but they could not replicate their triumphs from 2008, owing to the fact that the subsequent iterations of the car were not as competitive as Red Bull's car. Plus, the team had undergone a few changes in the upper management following the exit of Ron Dennis. Lewis tried to put up a tough fight against Vettel, yet it would not be enough to stop the Red Bull driver from winning 4 titles consecutively. This prompted Hamilton to look out for better opportunities elsewhere, and once again rumours about a possible switch to Ferrari for the McLaren driver made the rounds. Former team owner Eddie Jordan confirmed some of this by commenting, "Some weeks ago I said on TV that I felt Lewis was on the move, and I had an idea at the time he had been speaking to Ferrari, which we now know is true." This, however, would not result in much, as it soon came out that Hamilton would be making the move to Mercedes for the 2013 season, taking over from Michael Schumacher. Many people were surprised by his decision at the time, especially since Mercedes had only recently returned to F1 and were seemingly struggling in their initial days. Former Ferrari driver Niki Lauda had a major role in bringing Hamilton to the team, which Lewis later explained. "All of a sudden I'm in this position where I need to make a big decision in my life and Niki's on the phone. On one hand I'm like, wow, I'm talking to a 3-time world champion, but I didn't really know him or whether I could trust this guy. But I sat down with him and in the journey we went on, I would like to think we grew to love each other as friends." The winning combination of Mercedes and Hamilton turned out to be extremely successful, as both team and driver won successive titles in their respective championships. While the British driver continued his winning streak with his new team, speculation about Hamilton's future at Mercedes was often questioned. At one point, Alonso, who was driving for Ferrari, was rumoured to swap places with Hamilton, whereas on many occasions Lewis denied any such claims, saying, "It's definitely a dream for every driver, including me. Whether or not I will ever be there, I guess definitely not in the next 4 years or whatever it is." Though Hamilton may have not entirely considered moving to Ferrari, there is no doubt that they would have a lot to benefit from his inclusion in the team. Montezemolo too believed that Ferrari stood a chance of winning the championship in 2018 if Lewis were with the team. Much recently, the Mercedes driver expressed his thoughts on why he never joined Ferrari, mentioning, "For many years when I came to Monza, walking next to the fans, I could hear them saying, 'Come to Ferrari.' This warmed my heart, but it's pretty amazing that I've never driven for Ferrari in so many years, because it's a dream for anyone, a goal to be achieved. It's never really been possible, and I will never quite know exactly why. I have a couple of Ferraris at home, I can drive those, but not the Ferrari F1. In response to what Hamilton has said with regards to a Ferrari race seat, ex-Ferrari boss and current CEO of F1 Stefano Domenicali said, "I think that the answer that Lewis was able to give is the right one. Today, I think that period has passed. There is a movie that for me sometimes is very important to remember, Sliding Doors. There are moments where if you don't get into an elevator, you stay on the floor." Domenicali would further add, "I don't know, that was the situation that Lewis lived in that specific time of his life. I think that we cannot blame his choice, at least, because he had an incredible career." As Hamilton signed another 2-year deal with Mercedes, chances of the 36-year-old driver ever working with Ferrari seem quite bleak. Lewis has also been vocal about his thoughts on retirement and when he might actually call it quits. There's definitely plenty of times I've had over the last 4 or 5 years where I've been like, I don't know if I want to keep giving or sacrificing the training in my personal life. If I'm still hungry, if I can still train myself as I did as a kid, which I can do now and still achieve great results, then great. If I start getting slower, I can't be bothered to train and I'm not as driven, then I know that's when I need to stop, said Hamilton. All of this though is a long way down the line for Lewis, particularly due to the fact that he's still in his prime, winning races and actively fighting for the championship with the help of his team at Mercedes. And while Hamilton may not be joining Ferrari anytime soon, he did wish the team all the very best, saying, "I'm going to spend the next bit of my time stopping them from winning the championship." So what are your thoughts on Hamilton someday joining Ferrari? Would he be able to bring back the team in red to its former glory? Let us know what you think down below, and for more such content don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Pit Stop.